Greetings, folks. This is Wrongwise Gamgee, and welcome to Quick and Dirty Roleplaying. In this video, I'll talk about the idea of having multiple fail states in tabletop roleplaying games in order to incentivize in-character behavior that is informed by specific game mechanics other than hit points. In tabletop roleplaying games like D&D and its imitators, the thing that players probably want to avoid more than anything else is a loss of agency for their character. The most permanent form of loss of character agency is death, and these games have clear and specific mechanics on what conditions a character must meet in order to be considered dead, whether it's failing 3 death saves or whatever other variation it takes in games that precede D&D 5e or in OSR games, that typically being reaching 0 hit points. While there are other ways in which characters can lose their agency indefinitely, such as petrification, long-lasting mind control, etc., or in all but name, such as imprisonment with no possibility of escape, being polymorphed into a cockroach, etc., loss of agency in this manner is a special circumstance, whereas death can potentially lurk at any corner, especially if you're playing an OSR game, and, as previously mentioned, is mechanically tracked on the character sheet in your face with hit points. The same goes for monsters and other enemy combatants. If the PCs want a surefire way of ensuring that some menace will never bug them ever again, they can hit them again and again until they run out of hit points and die. Anything short of that is more than likely just a stopgap with no mechanical oomph to it, and is reliant solely on narrative considerations, i.e. GM fiat. A good GM will treat these narrative considerations with as much gravitas as a game mechanic such as hit points and morale, but an inexperienced or lazy GM will, more often than not take enemy motivations into account, except that they're on a mission to reduce the PC's hit points down to 0 before theirs are reduced to 0 first. What I'm suggesting here are ways for adversaries to meaningfully attack each other through means other than physical violence in order to make their opponent say, "I can't do this anymore," because of game mechanics. The earliest example of a game that does this that I can think of is the Call of Cthulhu RPG by Chaosium Inc. Besides hit points, each character has a sanity pool. Whenever a character confronts something horrifying or unnatural, they take sanity damage. Once their sanity reaches 0, they go irrevocably insane and the player permanently loses control of that character. Sanity is among the most notable game mechanics that are front and center of the character sheet, just below characteristics, and take up even more room than hit points, because characters have more sanity than hit points and are expected to suffer sanity loss more often than hit point loss. Call of Cthulhu is a very deadly game, so avoiding physical combat is highly incentivized with its low hit point count. Luke Crane's Torchbearer RPG has mechanics that emulate different negative conditions that PCs can suffer, such as hunger and thirst, anger, fear, exhaustion, injury, sickness, and of course, death. If left untreated, these conditions can not only hamper the PC's performance, but can also restrict in-game activities as well. Certain iterations of the Cortex Prime RPGs also use similar conditions, while others use physical, mental, and social stress tracks, which proportionally hinder corresponding actions the higher the character is on said stress track via a penalty die that the GM adds to opposed rolls. And once that stress track goes beyond a D12, then the character has functionally lost their agency due to overwhelming trauma, and they have to recover that in a specific way. In the Avatar Legends RPG, characters not only have a fatigue tracker, which serves as a buffer against exhaustion and harm, but have 5 distinct conditions that they can suffer from as consequences that occur in the narrative, those being afraid, angry, guilty, insecure, and troubled. Suffering from each of these conditions will impose penalties to certain game mechanics, as determined by the individual condition, and clearing these conditions requires the character to perform specific actions within the narrative that will inconvenience them or others, and or complicate their relationships with others. RPGs that use the resistance system, such as Spire and Heart, focus on what's at stake in every conflict. For Spire, these resistances are blood, mind, silver, shadow, and reputation, whereas in Heart, these resistances are blood, echo, mind, fortune, and supplies. Since both games have focus on different themes, Spire focusing on revolution against like a system that oppresses the Drow, since all the PCs are Drow, and Heart being about exploring like deeper and deeper into like the depths of the city of Heart, where at the bottom there's the heart, which is the thing that either powers the world or drives people insane or whatnot. The resistances are tailored towards each of those games. Now, if there's any TTRPG that's the most explicit about emphasizing and capitalizing on characters having multiple fail states, so far, like from what I found, it's the Resistance system, and a link to its core rules can be found in the description. While a number of examples that I've brought up have multiple fail state mechanics that are tailor-made towards the tabletop role-playing game in question in order to maintain that game's main themes or to emphasize them, just about every tabletop role-playing game involves characters with human psychology. I think that by not taking these psychological aspects into some sort of consideration and treating our PCs simply as game pieces, we miss out on having richer experiences in our gaming sessions. It's what makes good stories as engaging as they are, and the lack of these motivational considerations as a huge contributing factor to a boring story. Keep in mind that what emerges at the end of a gaming session is a story. If you like or dislike anything in this video, please give it a like or dislike and leave a comment, keeping it respectful and relevant. Subscribe if you want to support my channel, and if you really want to support my endeavors, head over to my Patreon and become a member. The link is in the description. Until then, folks, take care and play to find out what happens.